They say old houses remember. They remember the laughter, the tears, and sometimes the screams. This story takes us back to 2007, to a quiet street on the edge of a small town in Maine, where a young woman named Claire moved into her late grandmother's Victorian home. It was the kind of house that looked beautiful in daylight: tall windows, red brick walls, ivy crawling up the sides like green veins. But when the sun went down, the house seemed to change, like it came alive. Claire moved in 2 weeks before Halloween. She didn't believe in ghosts, didn't believe in curses. But that house, it was built to make you believe. The first night was quiet, too quiet. As she unpacked in the living room, she noticed the oddest thing. Every clock in the house had stopped at 3:17 a.m. Old clocks, digital ones, all frozen at that same time. She thought it was strange, but she laughed it off. The kind of weird, harmless thing you expect in an old house. That was until midnight came, because that was when she heard it, a sound from above. Thump. Then again. Thump. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. The attic. Claire froze. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she looked up at the ceiling. Every footstep seemed to crawl across the beams, stopping right above her head. She whispered to herself, "It's just the house settling." But the sound wasn't random. It was pacing, like someone was walking in circles. Then, a long dragging scrape. It was the kind of sound that didn't belong in an empty house. By morning, the sounds were gone. But when she went up to the attic to check, she found something odd. A single footprint. Small, bare, and burned into the dusty floorboards. She told herself it was probably from movers. Probably nothing. But that night, as the clock struck midnight again, the footsteps returned. This time closer. Claire grabbed a flashlight, her hands shaking, and whispered into the darkness, "Who's there?" No answer. Only silence. Then 3 slow knocks from the attic door. She stumbled backward, the flashlight trembling in her hands. Her breath fogged the air even though the heater was on. The house felt cold, alive. And then came the whisper. A child's voice. So faint she almost thought she imagined it. "You shouldn't have come back." The next morning she called a local carpenter to check the attic for raccoons or birds. He didn't find any. But when he came down, his face was pale. He said, "Ma'am, are you sure you're living here alone?" Claire frowned. "Why?" The man lifted his hand, showing her what he'd found in the far corner of the attic. A used candle, a half-eaten apple, and something else. A Polaroid photo. It was taken from inside the house. From the bottom of the stairs. And in it, Claire was sleeping on the couch. That night she didn't sleep. She locked every door, every window, and kept a kitchen knife close. At 3:17 a.m., every light in the house flickered once, then went out. Claire stood still, the darkness swallowing her whole. The air felt thick, heavy. And from the corner of the room, she heard it, breathing. She turned the flashlight toward the sound and froze. A man stood there, in the kitchen doorway. Soaked, filthy, clothes torn, eyes blank and hollow. He smiled slowly and said, "You left me here." Then the lights exploded, glass shattering, the chandelier swinging wildly. The air filled with whispering children's laughter, and the creak of footsteps everywhere. Ceiling, hallway behind her, above her. She screamed, but no sound came out. When the lights returned, he was gone. The back door was open. Snow was falling. And written in the frost on the glass were 4 words. "I never left, Claire." The police found a sleeping bag in the attic, empty food cans, and dozens of photos taken around the house. All of Claire, all while she slept. No fingerprints. No suspect. Only the strange black footprints burned into the wood. She moved out the next day. The house still stands, abandoned, silent, a dark silhouette against the cold October sky. And every Halloween night, neighbors swear they see a dim light in the attic window, and a figure pacing back and forth, waiting for the next person to come home. You shouldn't have come back. It was the night before Halloween, October 30th, in a quiet North Carolina neighborhood. The kind of place where nothing bad ever happened. Pumpkins glowed on porches. The air smelled of rain and candy corn. And inside a small white house at the end of Maplewood Drive, an 11-year-old boy named Ethan Miller was watching cartoons with his little sister Lily. Their parents had gone out for a quick grocery run, leaving the two alone for what was supposed to be just 30 minutes. The house was warm, safe, and familiar, until the phone rang. Their mom's voice came through, soft but urgent. "Ethan, we're stuck in traffic. Stay inside, don't open the door for anyone, okay?" He promised he wouldn't. But outside, something else was moving. At first, Ethan thought it was a stray cat. He even laughed about it. But then, from the corner of his eye, he saw something, a shadow at the window. A man's silhouette. Tall. Watching. Ethan froze. "Mom?" he whispered into the phone. But the line had gone dead. He quickly pulled his sister close. "It's okay," he said, trying to sound calm. "Maybe it's just a trick-or-treater." But it wasn't Halloween night yet. Then came the sound that made his blood run cold, the soft, deliberate creak of a window sliding open. The man stepped inside. He couldn't have been more than 19, but there was something wrong about him. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. He moved like someone who had done this before. He whispered to himself as he entered the kitchen, words too low to understand. Ethan grabbed his sister's hand and pulled her into a closet. He covered her mouth so she wouldn't make a sound. The intruder walked slowly down the hall, muttering, the kind of muttering that didn't sound human anymore, like he was arguing with himself. And then he started calling out, "Kids, I know you're in here." Lily's small hand trembled in her brother's. Ethan's heart was pounding so loud he was sure the man could hear it. The footsteps got closer. Kitchen, living room, hallway, then silence. Ethan peered through the slats of the closet door. The man was standing in the hallway right outside. And that's when Ethan saw it, a reflection. There, hanging on the wall, was the old machete their father used for yard work. It gleamed faintly in the dim light. He didn't think. He just moved. He pushed Lily back and burst from the closet, adrenaline surging through every nerve. The man turned, startled, reaching for him, but Ethan grabbed the machete off the wall and swung. The blade caught the intruder across the head with a sickening thud. He screamed, a deep animal sound, and stumbled backward into the wall. Ethan stood there, shaking, the weapon still raised. His hands were slick with sweat, his heart hammering. The man collapsed, blood running down his face. But then he laughed. You're brave, kid." And he lunged again. Ethan swung a second time, wild, desperate, and hit the man's arm. He dropped to the floor, clutching the wound, cursing through clenched teeth. That's when Ethan grabbed Lily and ran for the front door. The neighbors heard the screams and called 911. By the time the police arrived, the man was still inside, bleeding but alive. He tried to run, made it halfway down the driveway before collapsing. Officers later identified him as Jaden Parks, a 19-year-old drifter wanted for multiple break-ins. He survived the attack, but barely. When questioned, he told police something that chilled them to the bone. He said, "The kid wasn't supposed to be home. I saw him through the window yesterday. He looked right at me, like he knew I'd come back." Ethan and his sister were taken to safety that night. The police searched the house and found something strange. The back window's lock wasn't broken. It had been unlatched from the inside. And next to the sill, muddy footprints. Small ones. Too small for the intruder. For weeks afterward, Ethan couldn't sleep. Every night, he'd hear scratching at the walls, like fingernails on plaster. Sometimes he'd wake up to the sound of whispering just outside his door. His parents told him it was trauma, the aftermath of what he'd been through. But Ethan swore the whisper said his name. One night, a few months later, he woke to find his bedroom window open, even though it had been locked. And carved faintly into the wooden frame as if by a fingernail were the words, "He said he'd come back." To this day, the house on Maplewood Drive remains empty. Neighbors say that on the night before Halloween, if you walk by slowly, you can still hear it, the faint sound of children whispering behind the windows. And sometimes, if you listen long enough, you'll hear a man's voice whisper back, "I'm not done yet." If you survived this story, prove it. Hit the like button and comment how you feel. Don't forget to subscribe to help us keep creating trembling stories for you.